I was fired that morning. By afternoon, I walked back into the office with the FBI, all because he didn't read the sticker on the bottom of a laptop. I knew the meeting was going to be a disaster when I saw the bagel spread. It was that sad corporate assortment of dry pumpernickel and blueberry imitation bagels that looked like they've been sitting out since the last fiscal quarter, paired with a tub of cream cheese that had definitely seen warmer days. But the real tell wasn't the stale carbs. It was the smell of the room. It smelled like fear and a cheap cologne cocktail I've come to recognize over 20 years in it. We were herded into the main conference room, the visionary suite, because apparently naming rooms after actual functions is 2P for themodern fintech disruptor. I stood in the back, leaning against the server room door frame, my natural habitat. I'm Grace. I don't do synergy. I don't do circle backs, and I certainly don't do whatever the hell was happening at the front of the room. I do security. Specifically, I manage the dark, boring, and terrifyingly important intersection where this private financial firm touches the federal government's money. Enter Calb Roth, the new VP of Technology. Calb is what happens when a LinkedIn profile gains sentience and buys a Patagonia vest. He's 32, his teeth white enough to blind a pilot, and speaks exclusively in TED Talk subtitles. He'd been here 3 weeks. In that time, managed to use the phrase paradigm shift 47 times. I counted and had yet to log into a single administrative console correctly. He tapped the microphone, sending a screech of feedback through the room that Matahalf the engineering team we see. Team, family, rock stars. Calb started flashing a smile that didn't reach his dead shark-like eyes. We're entering a new era. An era of agility. An era of cloud-first, lean-forward, disruptive innovation. Checked my watch. 9:04 a.m. He had 6 minutes before I had to run the daily encryption cycle on the node. To get there, Calb continued, his voice dropping to that faux summer Tony executives use when they're about to ruin lives. We need to trim the fat. We need to shed the legacy weight that's anchoring us to the past. The room went silent. You could hear the hum of the vague system and the distinct sound of a junior developer hyperventilating. Grace, he said.
He didn't look at a piece of paper.
He just looked right at him, pointing a finger gun. Actual finger guns in a layoff meeting. You're a legend here, really? But your role, it's redundant. We're moving everything to an automated cloud infrastructure managed by an external vendor. The on-prem hardware is dinosaur tech. Today is your last day. The air left the room. People turned to look at me. I saw pity in the eyes of the older sysadmins. Ones who knew that dinosaur tech was actually a hardened, localized server mandated by the Department of Defense. I didn't blink. I didn't cry. I just felt a strange cold clarity wash over me. It was the same feeling I get when I see a red line in a server log. A problem that needs isolating. Is that so? I asked, my voice flat. It is, Calb smirked, clearly enjoying the power trip. HR has your packet. Security will escort you out. In Grace. Please leave the company laptop on the table. Asset retention policy. Now, here's the part where Moss people would scream. They would shout about their 15 years of service. The weekends spent patching zero-day exploits. The holidays missed keeping the network from imploding. I almost did. But then I looked at the laptop in me hand. It wasn't a standard issue Dell. It was a heavy matte black unit with reinforced ports and a biometric scanner that required a fingerprint and a retinal match to boot the OS. It was one of 3 audit nodes in existence. Calb, I said, stepping forward. You sure about the hardware? This isn't a standard workstation. Company proper Tigris, he snapped, his smile fading into annoyance. Leave it. We'll wipe it and repurpose it for the interns. Repurpose it for the interns. The absurdity of it almost made me laugh. He wanted to give a machine containing classified cryptographic keys to a 20-year-old named Braden so he could make TikToks on his lunch break. I walked up to Theatable. The room was watching the old guard surrender to the new blood. I placed the laptop gently on the mahogany surface. Okay, I said. It's all yours, Calb. I turned to leave.
Hey, hold up a sec, he called out. It stopped. Badge 2.
I unclipped my badge one with the special holographic stripe that allowed entry into the SIF-sensitive compartmented information facility in the basement and tossed it next to the laptop. Speaking of tossing things, if you're enjoying witnessing a corporate train wreck in slow motion, go ahead and hit subscribe and give this a like. It helps me pay for the therapy I clearly don't need because I have revenge instead. Thanks, guys. Good luck with the cloud, I said, walking toward the exit. Make our own luck, Calb replied, already turning his back to me to address the terrified survivors. I walked out of the conference room, down the long hallway lined with inspirational posters that said things like, "Grit and hustle," and into the elevator. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. I was in diagnostic mode. Because here's the thing Calb didn't know. That laptop isn't just a computer. It's a literal piece of federal infrastructure on loan to the firm. It's tracked. It's monitored. And most importantly, it has a sticker on the bottom that he didn't bother to read. As the elevator door slid shut, cutting off the view of the office I'd built from the ground up, I reached into my pocket. My fingers brushed against a small, innocuous-looking USB drive. It wasn't data I'd stolen. I'm not a criminal. It was my personal encryption key backup, something I'm legally required to keep on my person at all times per the terms of my clearance, without me. And without that key, the audit note on the table wasn't just a brick. It was a time bomb. And Calb had just decided to sit on it. I walked out into the parking lot. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and I had a feeling that the Department of Defense was going to be very interested in Calb's asset retention policy. I sat in my car, a practical-it-off sedan because I'm an adult, and stared at the building. I could see Calb through the glass walls of the conference room, gesturing wildly, probably explaining how much money he just saved the company. "Idiot," I whispered. I started the car. I didn't go home immediately. It drove to a diner 3 towns over, ordered coffee and pie, and sat there for 2 hours just breathing. I needed to let the timestamp solidify. He needed the logs to show a clear gap between my termination and whatever stupid thing Hugh was about to do next. The game had started, and he didn't even know he was playing. My home office is a sanctuary of cable management. There's no dust. There are no tangled wires. There's a tri-monitor setup that hums with the low, steady frequency of a well-oiled machine. It's the antithesis of the chaotic open-plan nightmare I just left. I sat down in my Herman Miller. I won indulgence and exhaled. The adrenaline from the morning was fading, replaced by the dull ache of insult. Redundant. The word kept bouncing around my skull. I built that network. I patched it when the Russians poked at it in 2016. I secured it when the crypto miners tried to hijack our servers in 2020, and now I was redundant because a guy who wears loafers with no socks said so. I opened my personal laptop. Be clear, I did not think back into the company. I didn't need to. I am the custodian of the federal bridge. My status as a contact point for the agency doesn't disappear just because Calb took my badge. Until the paperwork clears in DC, which takes weeks, I am still the registered keeper of the keys. I logged into the external government portal. It's a drab gray website that looks like it was designed in 1998, but it has more security layers than the Pentagon. 2-factor authentication, a hardware token, and a password that is 32 characters of gibberish. Access granted. I navigated to the asset status page. There they were, the 3 audit nodes. Node 1 offline safe in the server room. Node 8 offline safe in the backup vault. Node 3 active. My stomach dropped. Node 3 was the laptop I left on Theatable. It shouldn't be active. Should have gone into sleep mode the moment. My biometrics were removed from the immediate vicinity for more than 10 minutes. Unless he forced a hard reboot, I muttered to the empty room. I watched the logs populate in real time. The timestamps were glowing in amber text against the black background. 11:42 a.m. hard reset initiated. 11:45 a.m. BIOS challenge failed. 11:46 a.m. BIOS challenge failed. 11:50 a.m. admin override attempted user. Croth admin. He was trying to brute force a federally encrypted machine using his corporate admin credentials. It was like trying to open a bank vault with a library card. "Calb, you absolute," I whispered. I took a sip of water, my eyes glued to the screen. Every failed attempt was being logged not just on the machine but on the mirrored server at the agency.
He was flagging himself with every incorrect password. He was waving agent digital flag that said,
"Hi, I am unauthorized, and I am touching sensitive material." Then, the log changed color, red 12:05 p.m. perimeter. "Breach alert, intrusion detected on port 8080. He wasn't just trying to log in. He had plugged it into the open internet. I closed my eyes and pinched the bridge of my nose. The audit nodes are ergopedvices. They are never ever supposed to touch the public web. They connect only via a secure encrypted tunnel by plugging an Ethernet cable into it, or worse, connecting it to the office Wi-Fi. Calb had just exposed a classified endpoint to the wild internet. This wasn't a firing offense anymore. This was a federal agents and windbreaker showing up at your house offense. I had a choice. I could call him. I could call the office, get him on the line, and scream at him to unplug it before the automated sweepers found it. I could save his career. I could save the company the massive fine they were about to incur. I reached for my phone. I dialed the main office line. "Thank you for calling." I hung up. "Redundant." I said aloud. "I'm redundant. If I was redundant, then my warnings were redundant too." Instead, I opened a new email window. I typed in the address of my handler at the agency. Let's call him Agent Miller. Miller is a man who has no sense of humor and even less patience for incompetence. Subject: Notice of status change, potential asset compromise. Agent Miller. Effective 9,000 a.m. today. My employment with company name was terminated. I was ordered to surrender custody of audit node 3 serial H#88892. Alpha to Mr. Calb Roth, VP of Technology, despite my verbal warning regarding chain of custody protocols. I am observing erratic activity on the asset beacon. I am no longer on premises and cannot intervene. Please advise. Regards, Grace. I hit send. The beauty of the system is the bureaucracy. I had done my duty. I had reported the separation. I had reported the asset location. Whatever happened next was entirely 100% on Calb. I refreshed the log page. 12:15 p.m. directory structure accessed via guest protocol. He had managed to bypass the login screen using a guest account exploit. An old trick that works on consumer Windows but triggers a honeypot mode on these secure machines. The machine lets you think you're in. It shows you folders. It lets you click things, but it's recording every keystroke, every mouse movement, and it's sandboxing you in a digital cage while it traces your location. Calb thought he had cracked it. I could practically see him high-fiving the other brothers. "In the conference room. Look at this," he'd say. "Grace locked it down, but I got in. I'm a genius." He was browsing the honeypot files. He was opening folders labeled Confidential Budget and Black Project Alpha. These folders were empty decoys, digital flypaper. But then I saw the mere data tag for a file he uploaded to the machine. File name Dud Pitch Deck Final V2 PPTXSIZ 45 megabytes. He wasn't just looking. He was using the classified laptop to store his own presentation. He was treating a government audit node like a USB stick. I leaned back in my chair. The silence of the house felt heavy, charged with static. "You didn't just touch the stove, Calb," I said, watching the cursor blink. "You just climbed inside the oven." To understand why Calb is currently dancing on a landmine, you have to understand how I got hired. 7 years ago, this company, let's call them FinCorp, landed a massive contract to process transaction data for a sub-agency of Dudud. It was the kind of money that buys executive second homes in Aspen, but with that money came the clause. That clause stated that FinCorp Corp had to maintain a localized hardened infrastructure for data validation. No cloud, no Oz, no Google Drive, just cold hard steel in a locked room managed by a custodian with a specific level of security clearance. That's me. I wasn't hired because of my sparkling personality or my ability to pivot tables in Excel. I was hired because I hold a TS, I clearance with a polygraph chaser. I am the human requirement for their billion-dollar revenue stream. For the first 5 years, the old CTO, a guy named Marcus, understood this. Marcus was great. He wore cargo shorts and looked like he slept in a server rack, but he respected the hardware. He knew that when I said no, it wasn't a suggestion. It was a law of physics. Grace is the wall. Marcus used to say, "We don't drill holes in the wall." Then Marcus retired to raise alpacas in Vermont, and the board decided they wanted fresh energy. They wanted a disruptor. Enter Kalb. I remember his first week. He walked into my office, which was actually a converted storage closet next to the server room because it needed to be close to the metal, and wrinkled his nose. "Little dark in here, isn't it?" he asked, leaning against Theodore's frame, sipping a green juice that cost more than my hourly rate. "Keeps the heat down," I said, not looking up from me monitors. "Right. Listen, Grace, I'm looking at the org chart, and I'm seeing a lot of hardware dependency in your sector. We need to virtualize this. Move it to the lake." "The lake?" I asked, finally. Turning my chair, "The data lake? The cloud?" "We need to be agile. You can't virtualize the audit nodes," I said simply. "They're air-gapped by federal mandate. Clause 4, Section B of the contract." He rolled his eyes. "Everything can be virtualized. Grace, you just need to have the vision for it. You legacy it types. You're so attached to your boxes. It's cute. Really like collecting vinyl records. Cute." That was the moment. That was the exact second I decided that if this man ever fell off a cliff, I wouldn't be the one throwing him a rope. He saw me as a relic, a middle-aged woman in a cardigan who plugged things in and turned them off and on again. He didn't see the complexity of the encryption I managed. He didn't see the daily attacks I deflected. He didn't see that I was the only reason his email didn't get read by teenagers in basement and generic non-extradition countries.
He saw a janitor over the
Next few months, he chipped away at my department. He fired my junior admin, a bright kid named Leo. Because Leo refused to install unauthorized monitoring software in the employee network, he cut our budget for spare parts. He started calling the server room the museum. He took it. I kept my head
down.
I documented every denied request, every policy violation, every sarcastic email. I knew guys like Kalb. They float upward on a bubble of hot air until they hit an altitude where the oxygen runs out. Booty never thought he'd be stupid enough to fire the compliance officer. Back in the present, I stared at the blinking cursor in my screen at home. The honeypot on the laptop was active.
Kalb was currently exploring a folder I had created a year
ago called Project Ghost. It contained absolutely nothing of value, just gigabytes of random noisy data that looked like encrypted code. But to a guy like Kalb, it looked like the Holy Grail. I remembered a conversation from 2 weeks ago. Kalb had been bragging about a pitch he was making to a defense contractor. Lockheed, names changed for legal reasons. Obviously, he needed a wow factor. Needed to show them that FinCorp wasn't just a bank. It was a tech powerhouse. "I need something sexy," he had said, pacing around my office while I tried to work. "I need to show them we have military-grade analytics." "We don't," I had said. "We process payments. We're in spies." Not with that attitude, he'd sneered. And now, looking at the logs, seeing that dud pitch deck file sitting on the secure drive, I realized what he was doing. He was going to use the audit node, a mysterious black government-stamped laptop. As a prop, he was going to walk into a meeting with a defense contractor, open up a classified government machine and say, "Look what I built." He wasn't just incompetent, he was suicidal. I felt a strange pang of sadness. Not for him, God no, but for the sheer waste of it. He had a degree from Wharton.
He had a jagged jawline, he had a future.
He was about to trade it all for a cool PowerPoint presentation. I minimized the log window and opened a fresh document. I titled it Chronology of Compromise. I started typing. Date, October 14th, Invention Authorized Seizure of Federal Asset. Actor Kalb Roth. I wasn't writing a diary. I was writing an affidavit base when the dust settled. There would be an inquiry, and I intended to be the one holding the pen, not the one in handcuffs. There is a saying in my line of work. You can delete the file, but you can't delete the shadow. Mata is shadow. It's the story about the data. It tells you who created it, when they touched it, what machine they were on, and how long they stared at it. Calb thinks that because he has the physical laptop, he has control. He doesn't understand that the laptop is just a terminal. The brain is watching him. I spent the afternoon compiling the dossier. It was tedious work, but satisfying like popping bubble wrap. Evidence item A, the log of him connecting the laptop to the boardroom Wi-Fi. Evidence item B, the timestamp of him disabling the antivirus, which, unbeknownst to him, only disabled the notification icon, not the actual protection. Evidence item C, the screenshot of him attempting to copy Thihanapot files to a thumb drive. That last one was particularly damning. System flagged the USB drive as generic mass storage vendor ID unrecognized. He was trying to take data off a secure machine onto an insecure stick. That's 80-1 violation. That's lose your clearance. Forever territory, but the cherry on top was the webcam logs. Thodit nodes are equipped with security cameras that snap a photo every time there's a failed login or a security flag. Calb had generated about 40 flags in 3 hours. I opened the image cache. There he was. Grainy black and white lit by the glow of the screen. In one photo, he was frowning. In another, he was laughing, pointing at the screen while a blurry figure, probably a psychopathic junior manager, looked on. In the third, he was eating a burrito over a techie board. Crumbs in the keyboard, I noted, typing it into the report. Violation of hygiene protocols for secure hardware. Petty, maybe accurate. Yes, at 3 p.m., iPhone buzzed. Unknown number, area code 73, Northern Virginia. I picked it up on the first ring. Grace, a voice said. It was dry, raspy, and sounded like it belonged to Eamon, who smoked cigars while reading. Redacted documents. Agent Miller, I replied. Did you get my email? We did. We're seeing some unusual telemetry from Node 3. Is the device in your possession? Negative. As stated in the email, I was terminated this morning. The device was confiscated by Calb Roth, VP of Technology, against my express advisement. There was a pause on the line, a long, heavy pause. He confiscated a node, Miller asked, his voice dropping an octave. Does he have the encryption key? No, he's running a guest session, but he's plugged it into the commercial web and he's loading proprietary files onto it. I heard the sound of a keyboard clacking on Miller's end. Fast rhythmic, we're seeing a data packet match. Miller said he's uploading a presentation. The file header contains keywords defense contract integration. He's pitching a lockhead tomorrow. I said he wants to use the laptop as a prop. He's going to demo a live classified node to a third-party vendor. Miller sounded almost impressed by the stupidity. That appears to be the plan. Grace Miller said this is a significant breach. Protocol dictates we brick the device remittelli immedi. Wait, I said this was the pivot point. If they bricked it, destroyed it electronically. Now Calb will just say the laptop was broken. He'd blame me for giving him faulty hardware. He'd spin it, he'd survive. If you brick it now, I said you lose the evidence of intent. He'll claim ignorance. He'll say it was an accident. But if you let him walk into that meeting, if you let him president it, and you have him on espionage and fraud, you have him dead to rights. Silence on Thelene. I held my breath. I was asking a federal agent to let a security breach continue for the sake of entrapment. It was risky. When is the meeting? Miller asked. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. boardroom B, and you have access to his schedule. He built the calendar server. I said, I have access to everything. All right, Miller said. We'll hold fire. But Grace, you're reactivated. Consultant status.
Temporary.
Clearance override approved as of right now. You are to monitor Theaset and ensure no data actually leaves the device. If he tries to email anything out, you kill the connection. Understood, I said. And Grace, yes, we're going to need a witness. On site, someone to verify chain of custody when move in. I'm fired, Miller. They won't let me in the building. They won't have a choice, Miller said. I'm sending a team ready at 1 p.m. tomorrow. The line went dead. I looked at my screen, the employment status field on my HR profile, which I could still see because they hadn't revoked my readily accesso the legacy portal said terminated. I opened the admin console for my own account. I couldn't change the her status, but I could update my contact info. I changed my job title from systems administrator to external compliance auditor. I smiled. The trap was set. Now I just had to watch him walk into it. By 9 a.m. the next morning, the FinCorp office was effectively burning down. Not literally, though. The server room AC unit was probably struggling, but digitally. I sat at my kitchen table drinking high-quality coffee, not the office will. Watching the help desk ticketing system. I still had the dashboard mirrored on my tablet. It was a waterfall of red. Ticket number 492. CFO cannot access payroll folder. Ticket hash 493 VPN tunnel to Chicago branch down. Ticket number 495. Urgent CEO email bouncing. You see what Calb didn't understand about legacy junk is that it requires care. The authentication servers run a handshake reprotal every morning at 8 a.m. It requires a manual approval from the lead admin. That's me. I wasn't there to click approve. So the servers assumed the building had been seized by hostiles and went into lockdown mode. I could picture the scene, the sales guys slamming their mice, the traders screaming about lost milliseconds, and Calb sweating in his Patagonia vest trying to explain why the cloud transition was causing the elevators to stop working. Yes, the security badge system was routed through the same O server. My little design quirk, my phone bezzed, was Sarah from accounting. Sarah is a good kid. She brings in donuts on Fridays and knows more about the company gossip than the HR director. Grace, oh my God, she whispered. She was clearly hiding in the bathroom. I could hear Thicho.
Hey, Sarah, rough morning, rough. It's the apocalypse. No one can log in.
The printers are printing pages of pure black ink. The coffee machine is displaying an error code I've never seen. Calb is running around screaming that you sabotaged the system before you left. Predictable, I said, buttering a piece of toast. I didn't sabotage anything. I just wasn't there to turn the key. He's telling everyone it's a logic bomb you planted. He's threatening to sue you. Let him threaten, I said. What's he doing now?
He's
in the boardroom with his assistants. They're trying to get the presentation ready, fourth lockhead, guys. But Sarah lowered her voice further. He's using that black laptop, the weird one.
He says it's the only computer that's stable right now.
I laughed. It was perfect. The irony was so thick you could choke on it. The online reason the audit node was working was because it wasn't connected to the company network I'd supposedly sabotaged. It was running on its own independent government-grade architecture. He was fleeing the burning building and hiding inside the bomb. Sarah, I said quietly, do me a favor. Stay away from Boardroom B this afternoon. A pause. Why? Just trust me. Take a long lunch. Go to that salad place you like. Okay, Grace, are you coming back? Everyone's saying we need you. I don't think I'll be coming back, I said. Not in the way you think. I hung up. The moment the call ended, my screen flickered. New alert, 10:30 a.m. External. Projector connected via HDM. He was rehearsing. I opened the remote desktop view. Officially, it was for auditing purposes only. Unofficially, it was about to ruin someone's life. The window opened. A PowerPoint slide filled the screen. Future warfare financing. Corp's Defense Analytics. And beneath it, in bold, proprietary technology developed by Kalibroth. I froze. Because underneath his name badly hidden was a watermark. Property of us. Government. He hadn't even removed it. He'd just slapped a white text box over it. Click. Screenshot taken. That's fraud. I whispered. Then he opened the spreadsheet. I recognized it instantly. The confidential budget decoy file. Earlier, he'd renamed it Live Transaction Feed. He was planning to pass random numbers off as real-time military transactions. Falsified. Data, federal scale. Then came the email. Web browser. Draft message. To. CO. Subject. The Grace problem. I read it aloud as he typed. James. As suspected, the legacy employee left behind digital traps. This confirms my decision to terminate. I have the situation under control using the new secure hardware I provisioned. The lockhead pitch will proceed as planned. We're better off without her. I stopped breathing. New secure hardware I provisioned. Click. Another screenshot. You just claimed procurement of government property, I said softly. I don't even know the exact charge, but it sounds like 5 to 10 years. The noise in the office, the outage, the panic, that was just the overture. The symphony was about to begin. I went to my closet, pulled out my charcoal suit, the one I wore for federal audits, brushed off a piece of lint. Checked the time. 12:30 p.m., time to go to work. I pulled into FinCorp's parking lot at 1:15 p.m. visitor section. Strange feeling. After 10 years of having a reserved spot. But I liked the view. 2 black SUVs idled at the curb. Chevy Tahoes. Tinted. Windows. Government plates. No attempt to hide. This wasn't covert. This was compliance. I approached the lead vehicle. The window rolled down. Agent Miller looked exactly like he sounded. Gray. Buzz cut. Sunglasses. A suit more expensive than my car and clearly slept in. Grace, he said. Get in. The back seat smelled like leather and intent. Another agent sat beside me. Younger. Tablet in hand. Status? Miller asked. He's in boardroom B, I said. Laptop connected. Lockhead reps arrive in 45 minutes. He thinks he's closing a $50 million deal. And the data? He's presenting classified encryption hardware as proprietary tech. Miller shook his head. I've seen dumb, he said. But this is advanced dumb. It gets better, I said, pulling out my phone. I have audio. From 10 minutes ago. I pressed play. Khalib's voice filled the SUV. I don't care about the warnings. Just put the sticker over the barcode. Yeah, the Intel Inside sticker. Cover the government tag. They won't check the bottom. Defense guys are dinosaurs.
They
just want blinking lights. Silence. Miller's jaw tightened. Tampering with federal property markers, the agent beside me muttered, intent to deceive. He called Lockhead dinosaurs, Miller said dryly. That'll go over well. So, what's the play? I asked. We go now, Miller said. We secure the asset. And the individual. He'll make a scene, I warned. He's VP. He thinks he owns the place. Miller removed his sunglasses. His eyes were cold steel. Grace, in 5 minutes. He's going to learn he doesn't even own the shirt on his back. We stepped out. Me in charcoal, flanked by 4 federal agents. The lobby doors loomed. Kelly, the receptionist, looked up. Her smile died instantly. She saw me. She saw the badges. BI. Department of Defense. Grace, she squeaked. I thought you were just here to grab my laptop, I said gently. Is Caleb in boardroom B? Yes, but he said no interruptions. Miller leaned forward. We are the interruption. Badges flashed. Kelly buzzed us through, pale as paper. The bullpen fell silent as we passed. Heads turned. Whispers died. The fired-eyed lady. Walking back in with the cavalry. I caught Sarah's. I got shocked. Then joy. I winked. Outside boardroom B, Caleb's voice floated through the doors. And that's why FinCorp is the future of warfare. Miller nodded at me. After you. I pushed the doors open. They swung wide. Caleb stood at the head of the table, bathed in projector blue light. Sleeves rolled, laser pointer in hand. Executive confidence. Until he saw me. What the hell, Grace? I told security, then he noticed. The silhouettes. Miller stepped in and flipped the lights. Fluorescent white. The blue drama died. Instantly, sweat glistened on Khalib's forehead. This is a closed meeting. Khalib snapped. I have clients arriving. Get out. No one moved. Khalib? Roth? Miller asked calmly. Yes, I'm VP of Technology and you're trespassing. Special Agent Miller. Inspector General. This is Agent Zhang, FBI. Cyber. The laser pointer trembled. Khalib laughed. Too high. Too fast. This is a joke, right? He sneered at me. Did you hire fake cops? I said nothing, just crossed my arms. It's not a prank, I said softly. Miller stepped closer. You're in possession of classified government hardware. Audit node serial 8892 alpha. That? Laptop? Caleb scoffed. Company property. I fired her. Are you claiming ownership of the technology on that screen? Miller asked. Absolutely. Zhang tapped her tablet. Suspect claims ownership of classified encryption protocols. Suspect? Caleb snapped. Step away from the device. Miller said. No, Caleb said. Hand on the laptop. The room went cold. He stepped back. Miller unplugged the HDM. The screen went black. Grace. Miller said. Confirm serial. 8892 alpha, I said. Check the underside. There's nothing there, Caleb scoffed. Just an Intel sticker. I flipped the laptop. The sticker was crooked. Amazon? I asked. $5 for 10? Zhang peeled it back. Slowly. Underneath metal. Red. And silver. Miller read it aloud. Property of the United States. Department of Defense. Classified. Unauthorized access punishable by up to 20 years. Silence. Caleb collapsed against the whiteboard. You violated the Espionage Act, Miller said. And the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Handcuffs came out. No, Caleb whispered. I have a meeting. Cancelled, I said. Legal emergency. They let him out. Crying. Miller paused beside me. Good work. The fallout was immediate. By 3 p.m. All government contracts were frozen. 60% of revenue. Gone. 2 days later. The CEO called. We want you back, he begged. No, I said. I consult now. Caleb's career is over. As for me, I deleted his user account. Enter. Gone. Moral of the story. If you fire the person who holds the keys, don't steal the lock. And always read the sticker on the bottom.